Hurricane Matthew is intensifying quickly in the central Caribbean Sea. I'm Mike Naso from the YouTube Tropical Update page with the latest on Hurricane Matthew. We do have tropical storm advisories out for Colombia, which is very rare, showing just how far south in the Caribbean this hurricane is. Here's the latest particulars as of 5 a.m. Eastern Time. Matthew is at 14.0 north, 69.9 west. Winds are up to 100 miles an hour, gusting upwards of 120. A powerful hurricane already. It's moving west at about 13 to 14 miles an hour, and that pressure is 979 millibars. And you can see the track here through time. It is expected to begin to take a turn more west-southwest and slow down, becoming a major hurricane, and then make an eventual turn towards the north. Now, whether or not it begins to turn a little northwest later on or a little northeast, that's all longer range. But as of right now, we do know this. Matthew is going to be dealt with in the areas of Jamaica, possibly Haiti, and certainly the coastline of Cuba, as what is expected to be a powerful hurricane. In the longer range, a little bit uncertain. Right now, we have the general feeling that this system's going to slow down. So this area of the track here, the next 48 to 72 hours, that seems pretty certain. Afterwards, it starts to diverge a bit. You do have some computer models like the GFDL showing that this might eventually make it to the southeast coast of Florida. You have others showing that it's going to stay out at sea. This long range here is very unknown. We are unsure right now what will happen to Matthew once it gets past Cuba and the Bahamas. But right now the main focus should be Cuba and the Bahamas because it's going to be a much more powerful hurricane down here than it probably will be to the north, even though some of the computer models show it as a major hurricane in the central Atlantic there off the eastern coast of the U.S. So a lot of uncertainty in the longer range. What we do know right now is that in the short term, this hurricane is going to begin to move almost west-southwest, and that is not going to bode well if there is any rainfall, heavy rainfall, especially in areas of Colombia and the northern coast of South America. Now, wind-wise, it's still a very small storm. The winds have not expanded in their extent, but you can see the hurricane force winds right around where the center of the hurricane is. There are the ABC Islands, Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao, and the coast of Colombia. This is very, very close to where these tropical storm conditions are, so as the hurricane pulls a little west-southwest before making that bend, we might see some of these winds clip those regions. Now, here's the latest radar out of Curacao, and you can see the eye of the hurricane. It is kind of hard to tell from this angle, but it does appear to be moving pretty much straight west, maybe even a little west-southwest, and that should continue for the next 12, 24, 36 hours, and then eventually you'll see it bend back around and start to make that curve, but it's going to slow down. We saw it moving much faster yesterday than it is right now, and it's going to slow down even more. Not too impressive on the southeast areas of the eye wall there, but it is starting to close off right there at the end, which is a sign that this hurricane is intensifying. And look at that infrared satellite imagery, a very, very impressive hurricane if ever we've seen one. A strengthening Category 2 storm, getting closer and closer towards becoming a major hurricane. It'd be the second of the season after only Gaston, which stayed out at sea. And you can see right here, there is an eye beginning to pop out on the infrared, a little bit foreboding there. It is still dealing with wind shear, I'll talk about that in a second, but it is still getting sheared, and you can see it is a little bit flat there on the western side, but much better defined than it was earlier. You can see that curling and spinning there, a nice little pinwheel cyclone we have here in the central Caribbean Sea. There's the water vapor imagery, and you can see a lot of moisture. Sometimes when these systems get close to South America, they could suck in some dry air. We'll see if that happens, and that might cause the system to at least temporarily stop strengthening. But as of right now, the eye of the hurricane showing up there on the water vapor. When the visible satellite images come out this morning, we will see a hurricane, clear as day, an eye popping out. Outflow, I like this bursting that it's doing here on the western side. That is favorable for development. and so that is why we're seeing it deepen. And the pressure, again, 979 millibars, the pressure's been abnormally high with this hurricane. Remember when it was a strong tropical storm about 24 hours or so ago, the pressure was way up over 1,000 millibars. So to have 979, that's pretty impressive with this hurricane as of right now. Now, as far as the upper level winds are concerned, this was 24 hours ago, and you can see where the tropical storm was, and you can see the shear has not decreased. If anything, it looks even worse over the Caribbean. However, I believe Matthew is trying to carry this little bit of a safe harbor over the top of it, and the winds around the hurricane are causing that shear to show up on the tendencies there. Nevertheless, as it begins to move more towards the western Caribbean and the area of Jamaica, conditions should be favorable for more significant strengthening. And since we're already dealing with a 100-mile-an-hour hurricane, that is bad news, because anything more significant than that would be a major hurricane. And then, of course, like I mentioned earlier, if it does get into this area of the Bahamas off the southeast coast, it's far too early to say what conditions will be like. But if it is a large, ragged hurricane, even a Category 1, it could cause a lot of problems up there for areas of the Bahamas and potentially the southeast U.S. And even points further north, the Carolinas, New England, you guys got to keep an eye on it as well. But as of right now, Matthew is really the only game in town in the tropics, and it's a strengthening hurricane. We're going to continue to watch it here because this one's going to impact land. Right now, the advisory's out for areas of Colombia, the ABC Islands getting pounded, some heavy rain, some floodings taking place. You got to be careful with the high surf as well until this hurricane passes you by. After that, it's on to Jamaica and potentially Cuba and points north. So we will continue to monitor this strengthening hurricane in the Caribbean Sea.